Have you ever looked up at the night sky and felt a strange connection to something larger than yourself? That pull you feel isn't just wonder, it's an echo of an ancient dialogue between humanity and the cosmos, one that began thousands of years ago. Long before telescopes or satellites, our ancestors stood beneath those same stars and saw more than distant lights. They read them like a sacred text, uncovering patterns, prophecies, and profound truths about life itself. The wisdom they gleaned from the heavens wasn't just science or superstition, it was a lifeline, a guide for everything from planting crops to building empires, from predicting the future to understanding the divine. And what's most astonishing, much of that celestial knowledge still holds secrets waiting to be rediscovered today. Think about the last time you checked your phone for the weather or relied on GPS to navigate. Now imagine a world without any of that, just the endless sky above, whispering its secrets to those who knew how to listen. Ancient civilizations didn't just observe the stars, they conversed with them. The Babylonians tracked planetary movements with astonishing precision. The Egyptians aligned their pyramids with celestial bodies, and the Maya crafted calendars so accurate they rival our modern systems. These weren't random acts of curiosity, they were deliberate, sophisticated systems of knowledge passed down through generations, etched into stone and woven into myth. But here's the question that lingers. How did they achieve such mastery without the tools we take for granted? And what can their celestial wisdom teach us now, in an age where we've traded starlight for screen light? This journey isn't just about unraveling the past, it's about reclaiming a forgotten way of seeing. The stars that guided sailors across uncharted oceans and told farmers when to sow their seeds still hold power, not as relics but as reminders. There's a rhythm to the cosmos, a harmony our ancestors understood intimately, and it's time we rediscovered it. Over the course of this video, we'll decode star maps that double as treasure troves of knowledge, explore temples built as mirrors of the heavens, and uncover how celestial events shaped the rise and fall of civilizations. But more than that, we'll reconnect with the awe that comes from standing under a sky alive with meaning, because the ancient wisdom of the stars isn't just history. It's a legacy waiting for us to look up and listen once more. The story of celestial observation begins not with lenses or equations, but with human eyes tracing the slow dance of light across generations. Picture this: a Babylonian priest etching marks into a clay tablet under the glow of Venus, or a Mayan scribe counting the days between lunar cycles with nothing but a knotted cord and generations of inherited knowledge. These weren't just watchers of the sky, they were detectives piecing together a cosmic puzzle, one that governed everything from the flooding of the Nile to the fate of kings. What's remarkable isn't just their accuracy, but their perspective. To them, a comet wasn't merely a ball of ice, it was a herald, a celestial messenger. An eclipse wasn't just shadows, it was a conversation between gods and mortals. Take the Egyptians, who aligned the Great Pyramid of Giza with such precision that its sides face the four cardinal directions, and its air shafts point directly to key stars like Sirius, the harbinger of the Nile's life-giving floods. Or the Babylonians, whose Venus tablets of Amasajuka, dating back over 3,000 years, recorded the planet's movements with an error margin of just hours across centuries. These weren't isolated feats, they were part of a global tapestry of observation. Half a world away, the Maya charted the cycles of Venus to predict wars and coronations, while in China, court astronomers documented supernovas so meticulously we can still match their records to modern stellar remnants. But here's what truly binds these cultures: they all saw the sky as a living text. The same stars that guided Polynesian navigators across the Pacific also told Greek myths of heroes and monsters. The Pleiades cluster signaled planting seasons to farmers in Mesopotamia and Japan alike. This wasn't coincidence, it was a shared language of survival and wonder. And while we might smile at the idea of Mars influencing human affairs, consider this: their superstitions led to the first accurate predictions of planetary motion, the foundation of Newton's laws, and even our modern GPS satellites. The line between myth and science was never as clear as we think, because in chasing the gods, our ancestors unlocked the universe. The Zodiac isn't just a modern horoscope column, it's a living artifact, a bridge between ancient skies and human hearts. Picture Babylonian astronomers under the vast Mesopotamian night, charting the paths of planets against a backdrop of fixed stars. They noticed something extraordinary. The sun, moon, and visible planets moved along a narrow band in the heavens, passing through the same constellations year after year. This celestial highway, which they called the Path of the Moon, became the foundation of the Zodiac as we know it. But their genius wasn't just in observation, it was in connection. They divided this band into 12 equal slices, each tied to a constellation, and in doing so, created a cosmic clockwork that mirrored the rhythms of human life. What's fascinating is how these early astrologers saw the universe as a grand, interconnected story. To them, the movement of Jupiter through the sign of Leo wasn't just astronomy, it was a divine signal, a clue to the fate of kings or the fortune of harvest. The Egyptians took this a step further, weaving their gods into the fabric of the Zodiac. The fierce lion of Leo became Sekhmet, the warrior goddess. The scales of Libra mirrored Maat, the embodiment of cosmic balance. Even the Greeks later adapted the system, naming signs after their myths, like Gemini for the twin heroes Castor and Pollux. This wasn't mere storytelling, it was a sophisticated language, a way to encode wisdom about time, seasons, and human nature into the stars themselves. Fast forward to today, and the Zodiac's influence is everywhere, from the emoji on your phone to the way we describe personalities. But here's the twist: while modern astrology often focuses on individual traits, the ancients saw it as a tool for collective understanding. A Babylonian wouldn't just ask, "What does my sign say about me?" They'd ask, "What does this alignment mean for our city, our crops, our future?" The Zodiac was less about personal identity and more about humanity's place in a vast, animate cosmos. Yet the real magic lies in the universality of these symbols. Whether it's the Chinese Zodiac's 12 animals or the Vedic system's lunar mansions, cultures across the world independently mapped human experience onto celestial patterns. That recurring impulse to seek meaning in the stars speaks to something deep within us. Even now, when we joke about being a stubborn Taurus or a perfectionist Virgo, we're unknowingly echoing the voices of those ancient sky watchers. Their legacy isn't just in the constellations they named, but in the enduring human desire to find our story written in the stars. Standing on the windswept plains of Salisbury, Stonehenge's massive stones seem to whisper secrets of the sky. This prehistoric marvel isn't just a ring of rocks, it's a celestial calculator, engineered with precision that still baffles modern researchers. During the summer solstice, the rising sun aligns perfectly with the heel stone, casting a beam of light through the heart of the monument. But that's just the beginning. The slotted gaps between the sarsen stones frame key lunar standstills, moments when the moon pauses at its farthest points in the sky, events that only occur every 18.6 years. How did Neolithic builders, working over 4,000 years ago with nothing but stone tools and raw intuition, encode such complex astronomical knowledge into stone? The answer lies in generations of patient observation. Imagine ancient astronomers marking the horizon with wooden posts, tracking the sun's shifting path year after year, decade after decade. Stonehenge's blueprint likely emerged from centuries of accumulated sky lore, passed down through oral traditions long before the first megalith was raised. Some researchers believe its Aubrey holes, a ring of pits encircling the monument, functioned as a primitive eclipse predictor. By moving markers between these holes in sync with the moon's cycles, priests could anticipate when the sun and moon would align to create eclipses, events often seen as omens. Others argue the site was an agricultural calendar, its alignment signaling optimal times for planting and harvest. But perhaps the most compelling theory is that Stonehenge served multiple purposes: part observatory, part temple, part communal gathering place where earth and sky were ritually united. What's truly remarkable is how Stonehenge mirrors celestial knowledge found across the ancient world. The same understanding of solstices that guided its builders appears in Newgrange's sunlit passage tomb in Ireland, the sun temples of Egypt, and the medicine wheels of North America. This wasn't isolated genius, it was a global awakening to cosmic patterns. The builders of Stonehenge didn't just observe the heavens, they choreographed their lives to its rhythms, embedding celestial truth into the very bones of the landscape. Today, as modern astronomers use supercomputers to model the universe, these silent stones remind us that the urge to decode the sky is as old as humanity itself, written not in equations, but in earth and stone and patient wonder. Rising from the sands of Egypt, the Great Pyramid of Giza doesn't just defy time, it speaks the language of the cosmos. Every inch of its design whispers of celestial intention, from the razor-sharp precision of its alignment to true north, a feat that would challenge modern engineers, to the mysterious shafts that pierce its core, framing stars like Sirius and the Belt of Orion. These aren't random architectural quirks, they're deliberate signatures of a civilization that saw the sky as a divine blueprint. When the pyramid was built over 4,500 years ago, the northern shaft aligned perfectly with Polaris's celestial counterpart at the time, Theban, while the southern shaft locked onto Sirius, the star tied to the Nile's life-giving floods. Coincidence? Hardly. The ancients didn't just build tombs, they constructed stone compasses, bridges between the earthly and the eternal. Consider the sheer improbability of their accuracy. Without magnetic compasses or satellite imagery, the pyramid's sides deviate from true north by less than a 15th of a single degree. To put that in perspective, even the meticulously engineered meridian building at the Greenwich Observatory, the very definition of modern precision, misses true north by a wider margin. But the celestial connections run deeper than alignment. The pyramid's dimensions encode mathematical relationships mirroring Earth's measurements, with its perimeter matching the planet's latitude lines at a scale of 1 to 43,200. Some researchers argue these ratios reflect an ancient understanding of our planet's shape and size, knowledge supposedly lost until the Greeks rediscovered it millennia later. What's truly mesmerizing, though, is how the pyramid's design synchronizes with celestial events. During certain epochs, the constellation Orion, associated with the god Osiris, hovered directly over the southern shaft, as if the pyramid were a landing beacon for divine energy. The so-called air shafts might not have been for ventilation at all, but rather spiritual conduits, channels for the soul's journey to the stars. Even the pyramid's placement on the Giza plateau seems calculated. Its three companions mirror the stars of Orion's belt with uncanny precision, a terrestrial echo of the heavens. Yet for all these tantalizing clues, the pyramid guards its secrets fiercely. Was it an astronomical observatory, a resurrection machine, or a repository of lost knowledge? The debate rages on, but one truth remains undeniable. The builders didn't just gaze at the stars, they wove them into stone, creating a monument that still challenges our understanding of history. As modern astronomers peer deeper into space with billion-dollar telescopes, the Great Pyramid stands as a silent testament to an age when humanity measured progress not in megapixels, but in the perfect alignment of a single stone to the turning cosmos. While European scholars of the Middle Ages still debated whether the Earth was round, Mayan astronomers were mapping the heavens with a precision that would take the West centuries to match. Hidden within the jungle cities of Copan and Palenque, their observatories weren't just buildings, they were living machines, their doorways and staircases aligned to capture the first gleam of Venus rising or the precise moment the sun crossed the zenith. The Maya didn't merely track time, they conversed with it, weaving celestial cycles into the fabric of their civilization, until the movements of planets dictated everything from coronations to corn planting. At the heart of their cosmic mastery lay the Dresden Codex, a bark paper book surviving centuries of humidity and upheaval. Flip through its pages and you'll find something astonishing. Detailed Venus tables accurate to within 2 hours over 500 years. These weren't rough estimates, they were mathematical masterpieces, predicting the planet's appearances as morning and evening star with a precision that would make modern astronomers nod in respect. But the Maya went further. They tracked lunar cycles with an error margin of just 33 seconds per month, calculated solar years to within minutes of our current measurements, and even devised the long count calendar, a system so expansive it could pinpoint dates millions of years in the past or future. What's truly mesmerizing is how they integrated this knowledge into daily life. When Venus reappeared as the morning star after months of absence, Mayan rulers timed their military campaigns to coincide, believing the planet's fiery gaze brought strength in battle. Eclipses weren't just celestial events, they were omens, prompting priests to perform rituals to restart time itself. Even their ball games mirrored cosmic cycles, with the bouncing rubber ball symbolizing the sun's journey through the underworld each night. This wasn't superstition, it was a profound recognition of patterns. The Maya understood something we often forget, that human existence is inseparable from celestial rhythms, from the pulse of planets to the slow turn of galactic seasons. Yet their greatest legacy might be how they perceived time itself. Unlike our linear view of history, the Maya saw time as a spiral, with events echoing across ages. Their calendar round synchronized 260 sacred days with 365 solar days, creating a 52-year cycle where cosmic and human time realigned. This wasn't just math, it was philosophy in motion, a reminder that all things recur, from the paths of stars to the rise and fall of civilizations. Today, as we frantically chase digital clocks and blinking notifications, the Maya whisper across centuries, true wisdom lies not in counting moments, but in understanding their dance. Long before telescopes pierced the night sky, Vedic astrologers in ancient India mapped the cosmos with nothing but naked eye observation and mathematical brilliance. Their system, Jyotish literally meaning the science of light, didn't just predict futures. It revealed the hidden threads connecting celestial movements to human experience. Unlike Western astrology's focus on the sun's position at birth, Jyotish delves deeper, weaving together 27 lunar mansions called nakshatras and intricate planetary cycles known as dashas. These weren't abstract concepts but tools for navigating life's currents, rooted in texts like the Rig Veda that date back over 5,000 years. Take the nakshatras, for instance. Each of these lunar mansions spans 13 degrees and 20 minutes of the zodiac, acting as cosmic neighborhoods with distinct personalities. Rohini, ruled by the creative moon, was believed to foster artistry and abundance, while Ashwini, governed by the celestial physicians, symbolized swift healing. But here's where Vedic astrology transcends stargazing. It links these sectors to the concept of karma. The nakshatra under which you're born doesn't just describe traits, it's thought to reflect the soul's unfinished lessons, a celestial fingerprint of past actions shaping present circumstances. Then there are the dashes, planetary periods that unfold like chapters in a book. Imagine Saturn's 19-year cycle not as a harbinger of doom, but as a cosmic professor demanding discipline and maturity. Or Venus's 20-year phase illuminating love and wealth, but only after testing your values. This system doesn't just forecast events, it reveals timing, explaining why certain struggles or blessings emerge at precise moments. Modern practitioners still use these cycles to guide career shifts, marriages, even medical treatments, blending astronomy with philosophy in a way that feels startlingly relevant. What's most striking is how Jyotish bridges the tangible and spiritual. The 9 planets, including shadow bodies like Rahu and Ketu, representing the moon's nodes, aren't just celestial bodies but karmic forces. A retrograde Mercury here isn't about missed emails. It's a call to revisit unresolved communication from past lives. Temples across India still align their rituals to planetary hours, and millions consult astrologers before major decisions, not out of superstition, but as part of a living tradition that treats the cosmos as a conscious participant in human destiny. Yet for all its complexity, Jyotish's power lies in its practicality. Farmers still plant crops under auspicious nakshatras, surgeons avoid operating during vulnerable planetary transits, and couples analyze compatibility through detailed charts that assess emotional, intellectual, and spiritual harmony. In an age of algorithms and AI, this ancient science reminds us that some codes can't be cracked by machines. They require the human touch, the patience to trace celestial patterns as old as time itself, and the wisdom to see that the stars don't control our fate, but illuminate the path we're meant to walk. In the courts of ancient China, the night sky wasn't just a canvas of stars, it was a mirror of the empire itself, a celestial bureaucracy where constellations served as ministers, armies, and even palaces. At the center of it all sat the North Star, revered as the purple forbidden enclosure, the unchanging throne of the celestial emperor. This wasn't poetic imagination. It was a sophisticated cosmological system where every flickering light had rank and purpose. While Western stargazers saw heroes and beasts in the stars, Chinese astronomers documented a vast heavenly government, complete with departments for war, agriculture, and justice, all revolving in perfect harmony around the imperial pivot of the North Star. The precision of their observations still leaves historians breathless. In the year 1054, Song Dynasty court astronomers recorded a guest star blazing near Taurus so brightly it was visible for 23 days, even in daylight. Modern telescopes now confirm this as the Crab Nebula's supernova, their meticulous notes preserving one of history's most violent stellar explosions. But to the Chinese, such events weren't just scientific phenomena, they were celestial memos. When Halley's comet streaked across the sky in the year 66, it was interpreted as a warning preceding the fall of a dynasty. Emperors employed full-time astrologers not for personal horoscopes, but to decode the sky's decrees, adjusting taxes, military campaigns, and even coronation dates based on planetary alignments. Yet their greatest legacy might be the lunar calendar, a masterpiece of synchronization that still dictates festivals like Chinese New Year. Unlike Western systems tracking only the sun, this calendar dances between solar and lunar cycles, inserting leap months to keep seasons in step. Its 12 animal zodiac signs, rat, ox, tiger, and beyond, aren't just charming folklore. Each embodies yin-yang balance, elemental forces, and even compatibility rules that guide marriages and business partnerships across East Asia today. What's often overlooked is how these systems reveal a world view where heaven and earth were inseparable. The Forbidden City's layout mirrored the purple forbidden enclosure above. Imperial edicts were issued to coincide with auspicious asterisms. Even now, as lasers replace star charts, the legacy of this celestial bureaucracy endures, not as superstition, but as a testament to humanity's timeless quest to find order in the stars. When modern astronauts gaze down at Earth from space, they unknowingly fulfill an ancient Chinese dream, to stand at the intersection of heaven and human affairs, where the cosmos and civilization meet. Imagine setting sail across thousands of miles of open ocean with no compass, no maps, no GPS, just the stars as your guide. This wasn't some impossible fantasy for Polynesian navigators. It was daily reality. These master voyagers didn't just cross the Pacific, they danced with it, reading the night sky, the swell of waves, even the flight patterns of birds as a living navigation system. Their achievements weren't luck or guesswork. They were the result of generations of celestial wisdom, carefully memorized and passed down through chants and apprenticeships, allowing them to find specks of land in the world's largest ocean with pinpoint accuracy. At the heart of their mastery was the star compass, not a physical tool, but a mental map dividing the horizon into 32 directional houses, each anchored by the rising and setting points of key stars. A navigator would stand on the deck of their Wakolua, their double-hulled canoe, and feel the stars rotating overhead like a cosmic clock. When the star Hokula, what we call Arcturus, rose directly east, they knew they were on course for Hawaii. When Sirius blazed overhead, it signaled the latitude of Tahiti, but stars were just the beginning. They watched the ocean itself, sensing how waves refract around islands, creating subtle patterns invisible to untrained eyes. They observed the way clouds gathered over landmasses or how specific birds would fly out to sea at dawn and return at dusk, revealing unseen shores beyond the horizon. What's astonishing is how modern science has confirmed the precision of these techniques. In the 1970s, the Hokula canoe recreated the ancient voyage from Hawaii to Tahiti using only traditional navigation. No instruments, just the knowledge preserved by Micronesian navigator Maupiailug. The voyage stunned skeptics, proving that what Europeans once dismissed as primitive was actually an advanced science of observation and memory. Today, NASA even studies Polynesian wayfinding principles for insights into human spatial reasoning, recognizing that these navigators essentially created a cognitive GPS, a mental model of the Pacific so detailed it could guide them through weeks of open water without a single landmark. But perhaps the most profound lesson lies in their relationship with the natural world, where modern navigation relies on technology that separates us from our environment. Polynesian wayfinders saw themselves as part of a living conversation with the sea and sky. A ripple in the water wasn't just data, it was a voice. A shift in wind wasn't just weather, it was a story. Their genius wasn't just in observing nature, but in listening to it, recognizing that the cosmos speaks to those willing to learn its language. As our screens increasingly mediate our experience of the world, their legacy whispers a challenge to navigate not just with satellites but with senses, not just with maps but with meaning. In the dusty plains of Mali, the Dogon people guard a secret that defies the limits of human knowledge, an intimate understanding of a star no one should have been able to see. For generations, their oral traditions have described Sirius, the brightest star in our sky, with astonishing precision. But what's truly baffling isn't their knowledge of Sirius itself. It's their detailed awareness of Sirius B, an invisible white dwarf companion star so dense a teaspoon of its matter would weigh tons here on Earth. This celestial body wasn't confirmed by telescopes until the 19th century, yet Dogon cosmology speaks of its 50-year orbit, elliptical path, and even its incredible density, details impossible to discern with the naked eye. Where did this knowledge come from? The Dogon's own legends point to the Namo, mysterious amphibious beings who descended from the sky in a spinning vessel, bringing wisdom about the cosmos. These visitors, described as part human and part fish, allegedly shared star maps and celestial secrets before returning to the heavens. While mainstream scholars suggest the Dogon may have absorbed this knowledge from European visitors in the early 20th century, the depth and specificity of their traditions rooted in rituals spanning centuries complicate that theory. Their creation stories describe Sirius B's tiny size and immense weight with poetic accuracy, comparing it to the smallest thing there is, yet made of all the heavy metals. But here's where the mystery deepens. The Dogon didn't just know about Sirius B, they integrated this knowledge into their daily lives. Their Sigwi ceremony, held once every 60 years close to Sirius B's orbital period, aligns with the star's cyclical return. Their granaries, symbols of cosmic order, mirror the star system's geometry, with central posts representing Sirius A and smaller compartments for Sirius B. This isn't casual stargazing, it's a sophisticated fusion of astronomy and culture, preserved without written language or optical tools. Skeptics argue that coincidence or cultural contamination could explain these parallels, but the Dogon's isolated geography and the antiquity of their rituals challenge that view. Their priests still guard star charts carved into cave walls, showing Sirius alongside what appears to be a third star, Sirius C, whose existence remains debated among astronomers today. Whether the Namo were mythic archetypes, misunderstood teachers, or something beyond our current understanding, their legacy forces us to reconsider how ancient cultures acquired celestial knowledge. In a world where we equate progress with technology, the Dogon remind us that wisdom sometimes arrives in ways we're only beginning to fathom. The night sky over ancient Greece wasn't just a canvas of stars, it was a theater of gods and a laboratory for philosophers. Where Babylonian priests saw omens and Egyptian astronomers measured floods, the Greeks did something revolutionary. They asked not just how the heavens moved, but why. This shift from observation to inquiry birthed a celestial legacy that still shapes how we see the cosmos today. Picture Pythagoras listening to the music of the spheres, believing planetary orbits created harmonies too perfect for human ears. Or Aristotle gazing at the Milky Way and declaring it not a heavenly river but a band of distant stars, a staggering insight for the 4th century before the Common Era. Yet for all their scientific leaps, the Greeks never abandoned the mythic. Their constellations weren't just star patterns, they were frozen epics. When they traced Orion's belt, they saw a hunter eternally fleeing Scorpio, his story written in the stars by Zeus himself. The Pleiades weren't a cluster, they were 7 sisters transformed into doves to escape pursuit. This blending of science and storytelling wasn't contradiction, it was cosmology. The same culture that gave us Euclid's geometry also believed the sun rode a golden chariot across the sky, because for the Greeks, reason and wonder weren't enemies, they were partners in unraveling the universe. Enter Ptolemy, the bridge between myth and math. Working in the great library of Alexandria, he compiled centuries of Babylonian and Greek observations into the Almagest, a star catalogue so precise it guided sailors for over 1,000 years. His model of crystal spheres carrying planets around Earth may seem quaint now, but its predictive power was unmatched until Copernicus, and here's what's often overlooked: Ptolemy didn't discard the old myths. He calculated Venus's orbit and honored her as Aphrodite, proving that for the Greeks, understanding a phenomenon didn't strip it of magic. The real genius of Greek astronomy lies in its dual lenses. Aristarchus proposed a heliocentric solar system 2 millennia before Galileo, while poets like Aratus turned star lore into verse so popular farmers planted crops by its stanzas. This wasn't a culture torn between logic and legend. It was one that saw them as two sides of the same coin. When modern astronomers name spacecraft Apollo or missions Artemis, they're unknowingly continuing a tradition that began under Mediterranean skies, the belief that to study the stars is to touch the divine, whether through equations or epic tales. The Greeks taught us that the cosmos isn't just something to measure, it's something to mean. When a comet streaked across the night sky in ancient times, it wasn't just a celestial spectacle. It was a message etched in fire, a cosmic telegram demanding interpretation. The Babylonians, masters of celestial record-keeping, didn't merely note these events, they dissected them with the precision of modern cryptographers. On clay tablets now housed in the British Museum, scribes documented omens like, "If Jupiter enters the moon, the king will die," or "When Venus disappears in the west, rains will fail." These weren't vague superstitions, but a formalized system where every flicker of light carried weight, where the position of Mars relative to Saturn could decide whether an empire went to war or a city rebuilt its walls. The Romans took this celestial anxiety to new heights. When a solar eclipse darkened the skies before the Battle of Pydna in 168 before the Common Era, the consul Lucius Aemilius Paulus didn't dismiss it as atmospheric trivia. He sacrificed 11 black bulls to appease the heavens, then led his troops to victory against Macedon. Emperors like Tiberius kept personal astrologers on retainer, though they often exiled or executed these advisors when predictions turned inconvenient. Even the pragmatic Julius Caesar delayed his decisive crossing of the Rubicon until his stargazers confirmed the omens were favorable. To modern eyes, this might seem like irrational fear, but consider the context. In a world without weather satellites or economic forecasts, the stars were humanity's only advanced warning system. What's fascinating is how these interpretations varied across cultures. Where Rome saw comets as harbingers of a ruler's fall, the Chinese viewed them as broom stars, sweeping away old regimes to make way for new dynasties. The Aztecs interpreted the total solar eclipse of 1591 as a sign their gods had abandoned them to Spanish conquistadors, a psychological blow that arguably changed history. These weren't passive observations but active dialogues with the cosmos, where priests and kings passed celestial patterns like diplomats decoding an ultimatum from a higher power. Yet beneath the mysticism lay startling scientific insight. The same Babylonian tablets that warned of plagues and invasions also contained the earliest known mathematical models of lunar motion, proving that even as they sought divine meaning, these ancient astronomers were laying the groundwork for modern orbital mechanics. When a 13th century Mongol warlord postponed an attack because his astrologers spotted an inauspicious planetary alignment, he was unknowingly benefiting from centuries of precise celestial record-keeping, the same data later used by Kepler and Newton to unlock gravity's secrets. This duality captures the essence of ancient astronomy, a discipline where myth and math dance together, where the quest to understand the gods will inadvertently reveal the clockwork of the universe. Perhaps the most poignant example comes from Mesoamerica, where Maya scribes recorded a solar eclipse in the year 790 as the sun was eaten by the sky jaguar. Their response, not panic, but calculation, refining their eclipse tables to predict future events with such accuracy that when Cortes arrived in 1519, local priests knew the exact night the moon would turn blood red, wielding this prophecy as psychological warfare. This reveals the true genius of ancient sky watchers, their ability to transform fear into knowledge, to stare into the chaotic unknown and find patterns that still guide us today. In an age where satellite alerts ping on our phones, we've lost something profound: the visceral connection to a sky that doesn't just inform, but speaks. Medieval alchemists didn't just work with flasks and furnaces, they operated under an enchanted sky, where every metal in their crucibles whispered of cosmic connections. Gold wasn't merely an element, it was solidified sunlight governed by the radiant influence of the sun itself. Silver mirrored the moon's glow, iron channeled the militant energy of Mars, and copper resonated with Venus's allure. This wasn't poetic metaphor to them, but fundamental science, a belief that the heavens directly shaped the properties of earthly matter. When an alchemist distilled mercury or refined lead, they weren't just manipulating substances, they were participating in a celestial dialogue, attempting to replicate the universe's hidden processes in their cramped, smoke-filled laboratories. The famous emerald tablet of Hermes Trismegistus captured this philosophy in one cryptic line: "As above, so below." To alchemists, this meant the macrocosm of planets and stars mirrored the microcosm of metals and minerals. A lunar eclipse wasn't just an astronomical event, it was the perfect moment to work with silver, as the moon's darkened state supposedly weakened the metal's resistance to transformation. Saturn's slow orbit linked it to lead, the heaviest and coldest metal, while Jupiter's expansive nature aligned with tin's malleability. These associations weren't arbitrary, they formed a precise symbolic language, encoded in manuscripts like the Rosarium Philosophorum, where illustrations showed planets pouring their energies into alembics and retorts. What's often overlooked is how these mystical pursuits laid groundwork for real chemistry. The alchemical symbol for copper, Venus's mirror, eventually became the modern female sign used in biology and astronomy. Their meticulous records of reactions, though framed in celestial terms, produced tangible discoveries: hydrochloric acid, distillation techniques, and even early metallurgy. When Isaac Newton secretly transcribed alchemical recipes, he wasn't indulging in superstition. He was probing a system that, for all its mystical trappings, sought universal laws governing matter and energy. Yet the most fascinating aspect might be their unshakable belief in cosmic timing. An alchemist wouldn't simply mix ingredients. They'd wait for specific planetary hours, calculated using complex astrological charts. The Picatrix, a medieval manual of celestial magic, prescribed exact moments to begin operations. When the moon is in Taurus, mix the red tincture with the salt of wisdom. To modern eyes, this seems like esoteric ritual, but consider the parallels. Today, farmers plant crops by moon phases. Surgeons avoid operating during full moons due to historical bleeding risks, and even financial traders analyze planetary cycles, proof that the alchemist's intuition about cosmic rhythms still echoes in unexpected places. Alchemy's legacy isn't just in the transmutation of metals, but in the transformation of thought itself. By insisting that the universe was interconnected, that a shift in the stars could alter the nature of lead, these proto-scientists kept alive a holistic view of nature that modern ecology and quantum physics are only now rediscovering. The next time you glance at the periodic table, remember, those elements once danced to the music of the spheres, and the lab-coated chemists of today stand on the shoulders of robed visionaries who saw the entire cosmos in a grain of philosopher's stone. While Europe struggled through the so-called Dark Ages, the Islamic world was experiencing an intellectual renaissance that would redefine humanity's understanding of the cosmos. In bustling cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Samarkand, scholars weren't just preserving ancient Greek and Indian astronomical texts. They were revolutionizing them, blending observations from multiple civilizations into something entirely new. Take al-Biruni, the 11th century polymath who calculated Earth's radius with an error margin of less than 1% using nothing but an astrolabe, trigonometric tables, and sheer mathematical genius. His method was deceptively simple. He measured the angle of a mountain's peak from two different locations, then applied spherical geometry to deduce the planet's curvature. This wasn't just theoretical brilliance, it was practical science at its finest, proving that celestial knowledge could solve terrestrial problems. Then there was Al-Sufi, whose Book of Fixed Stars became the medieval equivalent of a celestial encyclopedia. Working in 10th century Persia, he didn't just copy Ptolemy's star catalogue, he corrected it, adding original observations and adapting Greek constellation names to Arabic cultural context. Where Ptolemy saw a heroic Perseus holding Medusa's head, Al-Sufi saw a celestial horseman brandishing a ghastly trophy. More importantly, he documented the Andromeda galaxy as a small cloud, the first known description of a deep sky object beyond our Milky Way. These weren't dry academic exercises, they were acts of cultural translation, bridging ancient wisdom with new discoveries while maintaining breathtaking precision. The astrolabe, a handheld computer of brass and engraved coordinates, became the era's crowning achievement. Islamic astronomers refined this device from a crude measuring tool into a multi-functional marvel capable of calculating prayer times, predicting eclipses, and even determining the Qibla direction toward Mecca from any location on Earth. The craftsmanship was exquisite. Some astrolabes featured over 2,000 engraved lines, each painstakingly calibrated to mirror the heavens. But the real innovation lay in the mathematics behind them. Scholars like Al-Khwarizmi, whose name gave us the word algorithm, developed spherical trigonometry to account for Earth's curvature in their calculations, laying groundwork that would later enable Columbus to navigate the Atlantic. What's often overlooked is how these advancements transcended religious or cultural boundaries. Caliph al-Ma'mun established the House of Wisdom in Baghdad specifically to translate Greek, Persian, and Indian texts, not to suppress them, but to synthesize their knowledge. Jewish, Christian, and Zoroastrian scholars worked alongside Muslim astronomers, debating celestial mechanics under the same domed observatories. When the Persian astronomer Omar Khayyam reformed the solar calendar in the 11th century, his calculations were so precise that the Jalali calendar he designed remains more accurate than the Gregorian system we use today. The legacy of this golden age isn't just in star charts or equations. It's in the very ethos of science as a universal pursuit. These scholars proved that curiosity knows no borders, that the night sky speaks a language all cultures can learn. As modern telescopes probe ever deeper into space, we're still walking the path they illuminated, one where mathematics and wonder orbit the same radiant truth. The year 1543 didn't just mark the publication of a book, it ignited a cosmic revolution. When Nicolaus Copernicus lay dying, his manuscript on the revolutions of the heavenly spheres finally reached the world, proposing an idea so radical it would unravel 1,500 years of celestial orthodoxy. Earth was not the center of the universe. This wasn't just a scientific correction, it was a philosophical earthquake. For millennia, humanity had seen itself as the literal focal point of creation, with planets and stars revolving around us in divine perfection. Copernicus's heliocentric model didn't just rearrange the solar system, it dethroned humanity from its privileged place in the cosmos. setting off shockwaves that would reverberate through religion, art, and philosophy. Yet the Polish astronomer's breakthrough wasn't born in a vacuum. Hidden in the footnotes of his work lay clues to his inspiration, meticulous study of ancient Greek and Islamic texts. Aristarchus of Samos had proposed a sun-centered system in the 3rd century before the Common Era, but without telescopes or precise mathematics, the idea remained speculative. Copernicus's genius was in proving it mathematically, using observational data preserved by medieval Islamic astronomers like al-Battani, whose star tables were accurate to within 1 degree. Even his famous diagram of concentric planetary orbits echoed the celestial spheres of Ptolemy, not as a rejection of the past, but as its evolution. This was the Renaissance in microcosm, old wisdom seen through new eyes, where rediscovered antiquity became the foundation of modernity. Enter Galileo Galilei, the fiery Tuscan who turned a Dutch toy, the telescope, into a weapon against the heavens. Pointing his enhanced spyglass skyward in 1610, he saw what no human had ever witnessed: Jupiter's moons orbiting another world, Venus showing phases like the moon, and the Milky Way resolving into countless individual stars. These weren't just discoveries, they were direct challenges to Aristotle's perfect, unchanging cosmos. When Galileo published his Starry Messenger, the backlash was swift. The Catholic Church, wedded to an earth-centered interpretation of Scripture, placed him under house arrest and banned his books. But the truth, as Galileo allegedly muttered under his breath, could not be stopped, and yet it moves. Johannes Kepler, the mystical mathematician, took the revolution further. Where Copernicus clung to circular orbits, a vestige of ancient Greek ideals of perfection, Kepler's analysis of Tycho Brahe's planetary data revealed a shocking truth. Planets moved in ellipses, with the sun not at the center but at one focus. His 3 laws of planetary motion, published between 1609 and 1619, didn't just describe how planets moved, they revealed why, laying the groundwork for Newton's theory of gravity. Yet even Kepler, the father of modern astrophysics, saw divine geometry in the cosmos, believing the spacing of planets reflected nested Platonic solids. What's often forgotten is how these pioneers balanced innovation with tradition. Galileo defended heliocentrism by citing church fathers like Augustine, who warned against literal readings of Scripture. Kepler blended cutting-edge math with astrology, casting horoscopes for patrons while deriving the laws that would make astrology obsolete. This wasn't hypocrisy, it was the messy, human process of paradigm shifts, where the new doesn't erase the old but transforms it. When we look at the night sky today through the lens of modern science, we're seeing with eyes shaped by this very transition where ancient star lore became empirical astronomy, and humanity's place in the universe expanded beyond imagination. For the Lakota people, the night sky wasn't just a spectacle, it was a sacred map, a blueprint for living in balance with the natural world. Their constellation Wikapi Oyate, the Star Nation, represented more than celestial patterns. It embodied the interconnectedness of all life. When they traced the shape of the Big Dipper, they saw not a kitchen tool but a great bear pursued by 7 hunters, a story that explained both the star's movement and the cycle of seasons. This wasn't mere folklore, it was sophisticated environmental science encoded in narrative form. The Lakota knew that when the bear's paw, the dipper's handle, pointed downward in autumn, it signaled time to prepare for winter's approach, a celestial calendar etched across generations without a single written word. The Navajo took this celestial wisdom even further, viewing the cosmos as a living being they called Nilchi-Diin, the holy wind. Their creation stories describe the first people emerging into this world through celestial realms, guided by constellations like Diliahe, the Pleiades cluster. To the Navajo, these stars weren't distant suns but the glittering eyes of the holy people watching from above. Their entire ceremonial calendar revolved around celestial events. The appearance of certain stars dictated when to plant corn, when to hold healing rituals, even when to shear sheep. The winter solstice ceremony, Shandian, aligns with the sun's rebirth not as metaphor, but as a tangible shift in spiritual energy that healers could channel. What's profoundly different about Native American astronomy is its emphasis on relationship rather than domination. Where Western traditions often framed stargazing as conquering the unknown, tribes like the Pawnee and Hopi saw themselves as participants in a cosmic conversation. The Skiddy Pawnee built their earth lodges with roof openings aligned to Venus's extremes, not to control the planet's movements, but to welcome its wisdom into their homes. Their morning star rituals honored the planet as a spiritual ancestor, blending astronomy with gratitude, a far cry from modern light-polluted skies where many couldn't pick Venus out of a lineup. The practical applications of this knowledge were remarkably precise. Zuni farmers in the southwest timed their planting by the heliacal rising of the Pleiades when the cluster first becomes visible before dawn after months hidden by the sun's glare. Studies have shown this traditional method aligns perfectly with the last frost dates, proving these celestial markers weren't arbitrary but honed by centuries of observation. Meanwhile, the Anasazi carved spiral petroglyphs that functioned as solar calendars, with dagger-shaped sunlight striking specific grooves only during solstices and equinoxes, an ancient version of Greenwich Observatory carved into canyon walls. Perhaps the most poignant contrast lies in how these traditions view humanity's place in the cosmos. Where modern astronomy often presents us as insignificant specks in a vast universe, native star knowledge teaches that we're integral threads in a cosmic web. When Lakota elders say, "Mitakui Oyasin are all my relations," they're including the stars as kin. This worldview survives today in ceremonies like the sun dance, where participants fast and pray beneath the open sky, their suffering offered not to gods above but to relatives, the very stars that give us the carbon in our bones and the oxygen in our breath. As satellite megaconstellations now threaten these ancient star paths, the wisdom embedded in native astronomy feels more vital than ever. The Navajo concept of Haja, walking in beauty, extends to the cosmos itself, reminding us that how we observe the stars changes how we treat the Earth. Their star stories carry an urgent message for our disconnected age. True knowledge of the heavens isn't about cataloging distant objects, but about learning to see ourselves as part of their eternal dance. While the Dogon's knowledge of Sirius captures global fascination, they're just one thread in Africa's vast celestial tapestry. Consider Great Zimbabwe's towering stone walls, whose southeastern alignment mirrors the rising of the Pleiades, a signal for rain ceremonies that sustained this 11th century kingdom. Or journey to Ethiopia, where the Borana people still use their 354-day lunar stellar calendar, carved into stone pillars at Namaratunga, to predict seasonal shifts with pinpoint accuracy. These systems weren't abstract theories, they were survival tools woven into the rhythm of daily life. When certain stars appeared, farmers knew to plant sorghum. When the crescent moon aligned with Orion's belt, elders convened courts under the open sky, believing celestial harmony fostered earthly justice. The Bamana people of Mali took this further, embedding astronomy into their very social fabric. Their Como initiation societies taught star lore as sacred geometry, mapping constellations like Cygnus onto intricate sand diagrams that doubled as agricultural almanacs. Meanwhile, the ancient Egyptians weren't alone in pyramid building. The Nubians of Sudan constructed over 200 pyramids, many aligned to the solstice sun, proving celestial architecture flourished across the continent. Even today, the Kung San of the Kalahari read the changing brightness of canopies to forecast seasonal rains, while Swahili sailors still navigate by Kusi and Kaskozi, the monsoon winds first named by observing stars' seasonal path. What unites these traditions is their seamless blend of utility and wonder. The Timbuktu manuscripts reveal 14th century scholars calculating eclipse cycles with algebraic formulas, while oral histories from Ghana's Akan people describe the supernova that birthed the Crab Nebula as the day the sky danced. This isn't primitive stargazing, it's evidence of a continent that watched the heavens with equal parts precision and poetry, where the same stars that guided camel caravans across the Sahara also inspired creation myths explaining humanity's place in the cosmos. Perhaps most striking is how these systems endure. In rural Kenya, Luo elders still interpret the heliacal rising of Sirius to time fishing cycles, just as their ancestors did. The Dogon's Namo might dominate Western imagination, but Africa's true astronomical legacy lies in this unbroken thread communities who never stopped seeing the sky as teacher, clock, and compass, long after others traded star charts for smartphones. Their wisdom whispers a truth modern science is only rediscovering, that the universe speaks in many tongues, and its deepest secrets often hide in plain sight, written in light across the night sky. The phrase, "as above, so below," wasn't just mystical poetry to the ancient Hermetic philosophers. It was the key to a hidden universe, carved into emerald tablets and whispered in temple initiations. This principle claimed the cosmos wasn't separate from earthly life but its perfect reflection. Picture an Egyptian priest tracing the path of Mercury across the night sky, while simultaneously observing how quicksilver pooled and shifted in ritual vessels below. To them, these weren't unrelated phenomena, but two expressions of the same divine intelligence, celestial movements, and earthly alchemy bound by invisible threads. This worldview didn't vanish with the fall of Alexandria. It smoldered underground for centuries before igniting the Renaissance like intellectual kindling. When Marsilio Ficino translated the Corpus Hermeticum in the 15th century, his patrons, including the powerful Medici family, saw more than curious relics. They recognized a revolutionary idea that human beings weren't passive observers of the heavens but microcosms containing the entire universe. The same mathematical harmonies governing planetary orbits, Ficino argued, also structured the human soul. His student Giovanni Pico della Mirandola took this further, claiming astrology wasn't about fate but freedom. By understanding celestial influences, one could consciously align with higher vibrations, essentially tuning the self like a musical instrument to cosmic frequencies. The ripple effects transformed art, science, and even politics. Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man wasn't just anatomical study, it was a hermetic diagram showing how the human form mirrored both geometric perfection and celestial proportions. Alchemists like Paracelsus used planetary sigils not as superstition but as symbolic shorthand. When he prescribed Sol, gold for heart ailments, he was invoking the sun's vital energy as much as its metallic counterpart. Even the architecture of the period whispered these secrets. The dome of Florence's cathedral was designed with precise astronomical alignments, turning the entire structure into a stone embodiment of "as above, so below." Modern science may dismiss these ideas as quaint metaphors, yet their echoes persist in surprising places. Quantum entanglements, spooky action at a distance, mirrors Hermeticism's belief in invisible cosmic connections. Fractal geometry shows how microscopic patterns repeat at universal scales, while systems theory reveals how ecosystems mirror galactic networks. Contemporary astrologers still use birth charts not to predict events but to map inner landscapes, seeing Saturn's influence as symbolic of discipline rather than doom. Perhaps the most enduring legacy lies in the Hermetic invitation to see differently. When we gaze at a nebula's swirling gases and recognize the same spiral in a seashell's growth, or when neuroscientists discover brain neurons firing in patterns resembling cosmic webs, we're unconsciously honoring that ancient maxim. The stars didn't just guide ancient sailors, they offered a mirror, revealing that to understand the heavens, we must first understand the universe within. Cathedrals, temples, and mosques stand as more than places of worship. They are stone hymns to the stars, architectural love letters written in alignment and sacred geometry. Take Chartres Cathedral in France, where visitors have walked its labyrinth for centuries, unaware they're tracing a celestial map. The winding path's 11 concentric circles don't just symbolize spiritual journey, they precisely mirror the moon's 18.6-year cycle, the same rhythm that guided Neolithic builders at Stonehenge. Step into the nave at noon on the summer solstice, and sunlight pierces a single stained glass oculus, striking a flagstone marked with a golden nail. This isn't decorative whimsy, it's a functional solar calendar, a medieval GPS synchronizing human rituals with cosmic time. Half a world away, Cambodia's Angkor Wat hides even grander celestial secrets. From above, its 5 iconic towers form a near-perfect match to the stars of Draco's head as they appeared in the year 1150, when the temple was completed. The western entrance aligns with the spring equinox sun, while corridors frame the rising of specific stars used to predict monsoon seasons. But the true marvel lies in the bas-reliefs. The churning of the ocean of milk mural isn't just myth, it encodes astronomical knowledge. The Devas and Asuras pulling the Naga serpent represent constellations, their positions mirroring the precession of the equinoxes, a cycle spanning 26,000 years. How 12th century Khmer architects encoded such long-term celestial patterns remains one of archaeology's great mysteries. Islamic architecture elevated this cosmic dialogue to mathematical poetry. The Alhambra's Muqarnas domes don't merely dazzle the eye, their complex geometries crystallize the Islamic concept of tawhid, the unity underlying creation's apparent diversity. Stars burst across ceilings in endless tessellations, not as decoration but as meditations on infinity. Even the humble mosque mihrab, indicating Mecca's direction, often aligns not just geographically but with significant asterisms. Studies of medieval Persian mosques reveal Qibla walls angled to face Sirius or Vega during their heliacal risings. These weren't arbitrary choices. Persian astronomer architects like Nasir al-Din al-Tusi designed entire cities with streets oriented to celestial events, turning urban grids into terrestrial star charts. What unites these traditions is their shared vision of architecture as a bridge between realms. When Gothic masons carved zodiacs into cathedral portals or Hindu shilpins aligned temple garbhagrihas to the pole star, they were asserting a radical idea that human dwellings could harmonize with universal order. Modern physics now echoes this intuition. Quantum experiments show particles behave differently when observed, suggesting consciousness and matter intertwine. The ancients knew this instinctively, building spaces where geometry, astronomy, and human aspiration fused into sacred technology. As light filters through rose windows casting prismatic stars across stone floors, or as dawn illuminates Egyptian temple sanctuaries on only one day each year, we're reminded that the greatest architects didn't just build structures, they built intersections where earth and sky could finally meet. Astrology's modern resurgence isn't just a fleeting trend, it's a rebellion against the sterile, algorithm-driven world we've built. In an era where data dictates our choices and screens mediate our relationships, millennials and Gen Z are clutching birth charts like cosmic lifelines. But this isn't your grandmother's horoscope column. Apps like CoStar and the Pattern deliver hyper-personalized readings, blending ancient planetary symbolism with sleek UI design, while TikTok astrologers dissect Mercury retrogrades with the fervor of financial analysts forecasting markets. The irony is palpable. The same generation raised on STEM education and skepticism now pores over natal charts with the intensity of medieval monks studying sacred texts. What's driving this celestial revival? Look deeper, and you'll find a generation starved for meaning. Where organized religion has waned, astrology offers a framework that's both individualized and expansive, a way to interpret life's chaos through the lens of cosmic order. When a 20-something describes their Saturn return not as an astrological event but as a personal reckoning, a time of breakups, career pivots, and existential growth, they're tapping into something primal. This isn't about predicting the future. It's about contextualizing the present, finding patterns in the noise. The language of planets and aspects becomes a toolkit for self-reflection, a way to articulate struggles that feel too nebulous for therapy speak or productivity hacks. Scientific critics scoff, pointing to the Barnum effect, the tendency to accept vague personality descriptions as uniquely accurate. Yet even neuroscience hints at why astrology persists. Studies show that finding patterns, even illusory ones, activates the brain's reward centers. Our ancestors connected dots between celestial events and harvests. Modern minds link planetary transits to job interviews or first dates. The medium has changed, but the impulse remains to see our small stories reflected in something vast. The most fascinating twist, technology, often blamed for disconnecting us from nature, has become astrology's unlikely ally. Machine learning algorithms now generate birth charts in seconds, while social media transforms age-old concepts like Venus in Scorpio into viral memes. Astrology bots dispense daily readings alongside weather updates, and podcasts blend tarot with trauma therapy. This digital age alchemy, part science, part mysticism, mirrors the Renaissance fusion of astronomy and astrology that once birthed Newton's physics. Perhaps the real lesson lies in what this revival reveals about human nature. We haven't outgrown the need for cosmic anchors, we've just repackaged them. When a nurse checks her moon sign before a grueling shift or a programmer times a product launch around Jupiter's ingress into Aries, they're participating in a tradition as old as Babylon. The stars they're reading might be the same ones that guided ancient sailors, but the voyage is thoroughly modern, not toward uncharted lands, but inward toward a self that still believes, despite all evidence, that the sky has something to say. Archaeoastronomy peels back the layers of time to reveal a startling truth: the ancients didn't just build monuments, they constructed celestial mirrors. At Ireland's Newgrange, a 5,000-year-old passage tomb becomes a cosmic timepiece every winter solstice. As dawn breaks on the shortest day of the year, a slender beam of sunlight pierces the roof box, a carefully engineered opening above the entrance, and creeps down the 60-foot passage to illuminate the inner chamber's spiral carvings. This 17-minute light show wasn't accidental architecture. It was a Neolithic alarm clock, signaling the sun's rebirth with the same precision as modern atomic clocks marking midnight. The builders didn't merely observe the heavens, they choreographed stone to starlight, embedding celestial rhythms into the very bones of the landscape. Half a world away in New Mexico's Choco Canyon, the ancestral Pueblones etched their knowledge into rock and shadow. On Fajada Butte, a sandstone slab known as the Sun Dagger casts knife-edge shadows onto spiral petroglyphs below. During summer solstice, a vertical shaft of light bisects the largest spiral. At winter solstice, twin daggers frame it. Even more remarkably, the smaller spirals track the 18.6-year lunar cycle, with light patterns shifting to mark the moon's extreme positions. These petroglyphs weren't primitive art. They were a functioning astronomical almanac, allowing a desert culture without written language to predict eclipses and schedule ceremonies generations in advance. The sophistication of these systems shatters assumptions about primitive societies. In Egypt's Nabta Playa, a stone circle dating back 7,000 years, older than Stonehenge, aligns to Sirius's rising and the summer solstice sunrise. Its creators, nomadic cattle herders of the Sahara, arranged megaliths to mirror Orion's belt, suggesting a shared celestial vocabulary across continents. Meanwhile, in Peru's Chanquillo, 13 towers form an artificial horizon line that functions as a solar calendar, tracking the sun's movement with an accuracy of 2 days. These sites weren't isolated experiments. They were nodes in a global network of sky wisdom, where cultures separated by oceans independently unlocked the same cosmic truths. What modern scientists dismiss as mere superstition often reveals startling empirical knowledge. The Maya's Dresden Codex contains eclipse tables accurate to within 6 minutes over a 33-year cycle, a feat requiring centuries of meticulous observation. Scotland's Callanish stones, arranged in a crucifix shape, not only frame the moon's major standstill, but also amplify sound at specific lunar phases, suggesting ritual and astronomy were inseparable. Even the great Zimbabwe's conical tower, long thought decorative, casts a shadow that aligns with the rising Pleiades during the October rains, proving its builders saw celestial patterns as agricultural signals. Archaeoastronomy's greatest gift isn't just uncovering ancient techniques, it's revealing how these cultures perceived time itself. Where we see linear progression, they experienced time as a spiral, with celestial events recurring like verses in a sacred song. The Hopi, whose ceremonial calendar still follows the cycles of Venus, understood that true wisdom lies not in conquering nature's rhythms, but in harmonizing with them. As modern light pollution erases the stars from view, these silent stones remind us that the sky was once humanity's first classroom, its lessons written in light across the vault of night. The Star of Bethlehem has dazzled historians and astronomers alike for centuries. Was it a miraculous sign or a celestial coincidence? The debate isn't just about identifying a cosmic event. It's a window into how ancient cultures merged what they saw in the sky with what they believed in their hearts. Some scholars point to a rare triple conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in the constellation Pisces around 7 before the Common Era. To Babylonian astrologers, Jupiter symbolized kingship, Saturn stood for justice, and Pisces represented the region of Judea, a celestial trifecta that could easily be interpreted as a royal birth announcement. Others argue for a comet, like the one recorded by Chinese astronomers in 5 before the Common Era, its tail sweeping across the sky like a divine finger pointing toward Bethlehem. Then there's the supernova theory, a sudden, brilliant star flaring and fading, much like the one Korean stargazers documented in 4 before the Common Era. Each explanation carries weight, but none perfectly fits the biblical description of a star that stood over the birthplace. What makes this mystery so compelling is how it reveals the interplay of science and belief. The Magi, often portrayed as wise men or astrologers, weren't just following a light in the sky. They were interpreting it through the lens of their own traditions. In ancient Persia, where Zoroastrian priests meticulously tracked celestial omens, a new star might signal the rise of a sacred ruler. To Roman observers, the same event could have been dismissed as atmospheric oddity. This cultural prism explains why no surviving records from Herod's court mention the star. What was earth shaking to some was astronomical noise to others. Modern planetarium software lets us rewind the night sky to that era, revealing another tantalizing clue. In 6 before the Common Era, Jupiter performed a retrograde loop over Bethlehem, appearing to pause in the southern sky, a phenomenon that could explain the star stopping in Matthew's Gospel. Yet even this elegant solution raises questions. Would a planetary dance have been striking enough to inspire a cross-continental journey? Or does the story's power lie not in its astronomical accuracy, but in its poetic truth, a reminder that humanity has always sought meaning in the stars? Perhaps the Star of Bethlehem's greatest lesson is how it defies simple categorization. For believers, it remains a divine signpost; for scientists, a puzzle of orbital mechanics. But for anyone who's ever gazed at the night sky and felt wonder, it's proof that the cosmos has always been more than a collection of burning gases. It's a canvas for our deepest hopes, fears, and questions. Whether miraculous or mundane, the star's legacy endures not in telescopes or scripture alone, but in the timeless human urge to look up and dream. Even in our age of satellites and supercomputers, the old ways of navigating by starlight haven't faded into obsolescence. They've evolved. Modern sailors might rely on GPS, but every naval cadet still learns to wield a sextant, that brass relic of celestial navigation. Why? Because when systems fail, when signals drop or batteries die, the stars remain the ultimate backup. NASA understands this too. Before astronauts dock with the International Space Station, they train in celestial navigation using star charts and handheld instruments, practicing techniques that would feel familiar to Polynesian voyagers or Greek astronomers. The Orion spacecraft, designed for deep space missions, even includes a manual navigation system as a failsafe, proving that ancient sky wisdom isn't just history, it's a lifeline woven into humanity's future among the stars. Consider the eerie parallels between ancient and modern explorers. Polynesian navigators memorized the rising and setting points of hundreds of stars, creating mental maps of the Pacific. Today, pilots and astronauts study similar star fixes, using constellations to cross-check their position when technology falters. During the Apollo missions, astronauts like Jim Lovell manually navigated by sighting stars through the spacecraft's optical telescope, a technique directly descended from the Arab astrolabe and the Greek dioptra. Even the Hubble Space Telescope, that icon of cutting-edge science, occasionally relies on guide stars, a specific bright stars used to calibrate its orientation, echoing the way ancient mariners steered by Sirius or Polaris. The real magic lies in how these traditions persist not as museum pieces, but as living knowledge. The U.S. Naval Academy still teaches celestial navigation, not out of nostalgia, but necessity. In 2018, when a cyber attack forced ships to shut down their GPS systems, crews reverted to sextants and almanacs without missing a beat. Meanwhile, modern-day Polynesians continue to sail thousands of miles using only stars, waves, and wildlife methods so effective they're now studied by roboticists developing autonomous drones. Engineers at Stanford recently modeled an AI navigation system after the Polynesian star compass, proving that our ancestors' solutions sometimes outsmart supercomputers. Perhaps the most poetic example unfolds aboard the International Space Station. Floating above Earth, astronauts occasionally spot the zodiacal light, a faint glow caused by sunlight reflecting off cosmic dust, the same phenomenon Babylonian priests recorded as the celestial river. In that moment, cutting-edge science and ancient sky lore become indistinguishable. The stars that guided Magellan and Zheng He now steer probes toward Mars, their light unchanged after millennia. This continuity whispers a profound truth. No matter how far we venture into the cosmos, we'll always carry the sky inside us, not as data, but as story, not as coordinates, but as compass. The same stars that guided ancient navigators and inspired temple builders now light the way for our most ambitious space missions, and the connection runs deeper than we realize. Modern astronomers searching for exoplanets are employing techniques that would feel familiar to Babylonian sky watchers, patiently tracking minute changes in starlight, just as those early observers noted planetary movements against fixed constellations. When the James Webb Space Telescope detects atmospheric chemicals on distant worlds by analyzing light spectra, it's essentially fulfilling the alchemist's dream of reading celestial signatures. Only now, instead of linking metals to planets, we're hunting for oxygen and methane as clues to alien life. Consider how Polynesian wayfinding principles are revolutionizing autonomous space navigation. Engineers designing probes for interstellar travel face the same challenge ancient mariners did, traversing vast, featureless expanses without fixed reference points. The solution, a modern star compass inspired by Pacific navigators' mental maps, where pulsars collapsed stars emitting regular radio pulses replace traditional guide stars. These cosmic lighthouses allow probes like Voyager to triangulate their position billions of miles from Earth, proving that ancient techniques scale beautifully to galactic distances. Even NASA's Artemis program borrows from celestial wisdom, training astronauts to use lunar landmarks and star sightings as backup navigation, echoing how Phoenician sailors relied on Ursa Major when coastal markers vanished. The most poetic convergence lies in our search for cosmic patterns. Just as the Maya saw time as cyclical and encoded this understanding into their calendar round, contemporary physicists explore recurring universal rhythms from the oscillation of neutrinos to the hypothesized Big Bounce model of an endlessly expanding and contracting cosmos. The Dogon's intricate knowledge of Sirius's movements finds an unexpected parallel in modern astronomy's hunt for exoplanets orbiting binary star systems, environments once thought too chaotic for life. These parallels aren't coincidental. They reveal how human minds, whether armed with supercomputers or stone circles, instinctively seek order in celestial chaos. Yet the future may hold the greatest validation of ancient insights. As we decode gravitational waves, ripples in spacetime from colliding black holes, we're essentially listening to the music of the spheres Pythagoras imagined millennia ago. Projects like Breakthrough Starshot, aiming to send microprobes to Alpha Centauri, could inadvertently test an idea from Hindu cosmology, that the universe is interconnected through threads of energy, what they called akasha, now echoed in theories of quantum entanglement. Even the long-dismissed astrological concept of planetary influences gains new nuance as research explores how solar storms affect satellite electronics and astronaut health, proof that celestial bodies do interact with human technology in measurable ways. The real breakthrough comes when we stop seeing ancient astronomy as primitive guesswork and recognize it as a different kind of precision, where modern science measures light years and spectral lines, ancestral knowledge tracked meaning and connection. As we stand on the verge of discovering life beyond Earth or cracking the mysteries of dark matter, we might find the most revolutionary ideas aren't in our data streams, but in the star lore of cultures who understood that to study the heavens isn't just to map the universe, but to chart the human soul. The next great leap in space exploration may well begin with a question our ancestors asked millennia ago, not just how the cosmos works, but why it sings to us so deeply. From the moment our ancestors first traced constellations in flickering firelight to the engineers plotting Mars landings on glowing screens, the stars have been humanity's oldest teachers. Those towering stones at Stonehenge, those precise pyramid shafts, those Polynesian star charts etched in memory, they weren't just tools for survival. They were love letters to the cosmos, proof that we've always been more than passive observers of the night sky. We've been storytellers, scientists, and seekers, decoding celestial patterns not just to predict seasons or navigate oceans, but to answer the whispered question at the heart of every culture: why are we here? What's extraordinary isn't just how much the ancients got right, it's how their wisdom still resonates. When a SpaceX rocket aligns its trajectory using algorithms, it's fulfilling the same impulse that drove Mayan astronomers to track Venus with such precision. The quantum physicists probing entanglement today echo the Hermeticists who insisted, as above, so below. Even our modern obsession with astrology apps and moon cycles reveals an unbroken thread, a longing to feel connected to something larger than ourselves, just as the builders of Angkor Wat aligned their temples to mirror the heavens. This isn't about nostalgia for a simpler past. It's about recognizing that the boundary between ancient and modern science was never as solid as we assumed. The Dogon's knowledge of Sirius B, the Navajo's star-based agricultural calendars, the Babylonian eclipse predictions, they all remind us that curiosity transcends technology. Our telescopes are sharper now, our data sets vaster, but the essential questions remain. What secrets do the stars hold about our origins? Can they guide us toward a better future? The answers might lie not just in cutting-edge labs, but in the very traditions we once dismissed as myth. So the next time you glance upward, remember, you're joining a conversation that spans millennia. The same stars that guided Cleopatra's astrologers and Galileo's telescopes still shine for us today, indifferent to calendars or civilizations. They invite us to keep wondering, keep exploring, keep weaving new stories from their ancient light. Because the greatest celestial secret of all might be this: the universe isn't just above us, it's within us, in the DNA we share with every culture that ever looked up and dared to dream. If this journey through the wisdom of the stars sparked your curiosity, share your own celestial insights below, and don't forget to join us as we keep unraveling history's most captivating mysteries together. The cosmos still has plenty left to